My boy Lou Williams joins us right now from the Black College Sports page, and it is about time to kick off the long awaited, never duplicated 2026 HBCU football season. And as we go into the season, Luke, interesting stories all the way around. But I'm going to start with one. It may come out of left field, but Southern University. Less about the fact that Marshall Faulk is down there coaching, because it remains to be seen if he's going to be Michael Vick in his first year or Deshaun Jackson in his first year. So we get all that. But the school itself, I saw a video where one of the big time campus administrators was begging for the state to help Southern University stop sinking literally into the Mississippi River. Has anybody down there made any overtures about the sake of the campus even before we get to football season?
Well, interesting you say that because I did see that story. I saw the headline about it, about how much, they're on, as they say, on the bluff, so to speak. Have you done a
Right.
game? Have you done a game of Southern?
Yes, I have
Yeah,
several.
yeah. It's on the bluff, and it's right on the edge of the water. And this story was about how much land they were losing over some period of time. I don't know if it was a geological survey or whatnot, but I did see that story. I don't know any details about it, but I knew that they had asked the state to do something to try to prevent it. Now how that's going to affect Marshall Faulk and his debut at Southern this weekend, I'm not sure. But you know how rabid the fans are down there at Southern, as well as about the institution itself. So, it's an interesting story. Maybe something we should follow up on to see exactly what it means.
Yeah, that's why I put it out there in this space while we had our conversation, because I'm pretty sure there'll be some other entities that may not have seen that, but I saw the video. It was quite concerning and very emotional. And when you're a kid like me that spent 5 years down there as a youth, it's
I didn't
almost
know that.
heartbreaking.
I didn't
Yeah.
know that, Mark.
Oh,
Okay.
dude, I grew up literally. I saw Harold Carmichael and I saw Mel Blunt play and didn't realize that till I got to the East Coast. You
Okay.
know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Watching the Steelers and the Eagles. And Burt Jones was quarterback at LSU at that time.
Yeah.
They had gone
Yeah.
to, and so I come back up the way and he's right there waiting for me wearing the Baltimore Colts uniform.
How about
So
that?
so LSU and Southern on a personal level do in fact mean a lot for me, but I'm amazed. Have we started taking the former pro football coach coming to an HBCU for granted? Because it was must see TV when Prime got to Jackson.
Absolutely.
Even Michael Vick had his own reality show when he
Right.
got to Norfolk.
Right.
Only video I've seen of Marshall Faulk was him saying that he's um, comfortable being uncomfortable as a coach.
Okay. Okay.
And I'm just wondering, have we got to a point where the novelty has worn off, so to speak? You got to win.
Well, on the SWAC football media teleconference on Monday, I actually asked Marshall Falk about that. I asked him, I said, "What's the talk amongst NFL players, ex-NFL players, veterans who have retired? What is the talk about? Did Dion spark all of this?" He absolutely said Dion sparked it, even though, we've had Hall of Famers coaching before. When you go back to Larry Little, when you go back to Harold Jackson, he's a Hall of Famer, certainly in the Black College Hall of Fame. He belongs in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Been any number of guys that have been there. But certainly, Dion took it to a whole another level. And Marshall, in fact, verified that. But his debut at Southern, along with others that are NFL veterans, even Quinn Gray, who left Albany State to go to his alma mater, Florida A&M. And we know Ted White, these quarterbacks coming back to their schools, Ted White, Torrey Woodbury at Winston-Salem State, Ted White, all these guys are debuting this weekend. So, yeah, I think it's very much, the novelty kind of has worn off. As a matter of fact, I'd say right now, when an opening comes, we're expecting an NFL player to step up. We've talked about what the linebacker from the Baltimore Ravens. What's his name? With the dance when he comes in, Ray
Who,
Lewis.
Ray Lewis?
His name was out there. Marshall Faulk's name was out there 3 or 4 years ago when Southern had an opening. So now, when the guys are looking for something to do, and they're looking for something to do post NFL career, HBCU football and being a coach obviously is on the menu now.
Now, and as we continue with Luke Williams from the Black College Sports page, as we count down the kickoff of Black College Football 2026, a lot of people talk about the big time names, but last I checked, it was Prairie View
Hmm.
that was holding
Hmm.
the trophy right now.
That's right. That's
And
right.
if you're in that, if you're in that space, I think you kind of like where you are as Prairie View. You got the resources. You have a very commanding, smart athletic director, and
Hmm.
you got a coach that may not have the NFL cachet, but we've seen he can X and O and put people into a position behind him. And I would love to be him coming into the season almost with no pressure, having to defend the championship. I don't think it's going to be easy to wrest that title away from the Panthers.
Well, several things. He was on the SWAC football teleconference as well Monday. They've been starting the season with Texas Southern, which he says he hates because it's a conference game and a rival to start the season. He said those rivalries belong at the end of the season. But they're opening Saturday when we get into actually who's playing Saturday. They're opening Saturday with the number 5 team in preseason FCS football. That's Tarleton State down in Stephenville, Texas. And listen, this is exactly what Tremaine Jackson, the head coach of Prairie View A&M, wants. He wants Prairie View to be a national a team that's playing against the best in the FCS, and you couldn't ask for a better opening for him to go down. Listen, he says you said he can X and O. He can also recruit. He's got 70 new players after winning the SWAC West Championship in his first year. And keep in mind, this is the guy who at Valdosta State, the last 2 years of Valdosta State, was the number 1 team in the nation, went to the championship game. His second year, he went to the championship game, lost to Ferris State with that quarterback who's now down at Ole Miss, Trinidad Chambliss. So he is asking for the challenge and he's getting it. So that's one of the big games to watch this Saturday when they play Tarleton State down in Stephenville, Texas.
That should be a tone setting game,
Absolutely.
certainly
Absolutely.
for Prairie View. And again, they're not going to go down there and blink.
No,
They
exactly.
they going down there to man up, man.
And
I
look,
think if Charles,
he's a different kind of guy, man.
yeah,
And he doesn't mind telling you that. In the media day, he was saying like, I'm not like most speaks. I like most coaches. I like to do this. I like to do that. He's a guy to watch to keep your eye on. He's a guy. I wouldn't be surprised, tell you, Mark, if he doesn't stay at Prairie View very long, and somebody on the upper level in the Power Four, the BCS would try to grab him. The way they snatched Eddie George as soon as he got some success down at Tennessee State.
I'm a little shocked that Eddie Robinson Jr. hasn't gotten a call with his NFL cachet as well. But
Absolutely.
it's funny how what was once the cradle of players in Black College is now the cradle of coaches
Coaches, right?
with
Exactly.
NFL experience.
But
It's an amazing story to watch.
and listen, you mentioned Marshall Faulk. That's I guess I would almost call it my game of the week, even though there are plenty of games to watch this week. And listen, I just realized when I was doing my schedule today, of the 28 games that are kicking off the season, 26 of them are either on television or can be streamed. This is a new day, Mark. I remember, you would try to find maybe two games that you could see on TV. But there's no internet during that time. Now, almost every game is either being streamed on one network or another, or the ESPN Plus of the world are out there. The Flow College sports are out there, so that every game you can sit home. And I'm not encouraging you to sit home
No, not at all.
because yeah,
You
you
may
got to
not get
have
the whole band show.
you got to get the whole experience. But it's amazing that these many games, if you can keep up with games, see games in person, see guys. I'm personally going to Birmingham this Saturday to see Marshall Faulk's debut at Southern and the debut of Andrew Body, I think the most talked about player in black college football, coming back to Alabama State.
That is Luke Williams, the guru of Black College football. Check out his work at the Black College Sports page on a computer, smartphone, tablet, however you get your HBCU knowledge on. We're there.
And keep in mind, we just started a website,
Right.
BC Spin, Black College Sports Page Information Network, bcspin.net. So catch me there as well.
All right. So you know where it is. There's no excuse. We're going to be putting it in your face for the next 10 to 12 weeks. So,
Okay.
no, there's no excuses, boys and girls. None whatsoever. All right. Lute, I want to shift gears, talk a little bit of MEAC action coming up because, again, the two spotlights seem to be on Deshaun Jackson, who you talked about what Tremaine Jackson was doing down at Jackson State. I mean, Prairie View A&M.
Mm-hmm.
Deshaun Jackson, and it's amazing to me how he has created a thing at Delaware State, and in order to recruit kids these days, it's got to be a thing.
Yeah.
And he's pulled that off. I don't think I ever thought that there would be anybody that could. I mean, you could win there like we saw with Bill Collick.
Yeah.
But they've got, games in Philly. They got their own traveling road show now.
How about that? From back to back 1-11 seasons to in 1 year, he has completely flipped the script for the Hornets of Delaware State. They're opening at Stony Brook. They actually are opening at home against Stony Brook on Thursday at 6 p.m. And the thing I love about Deshaun Jackson is if you hear him talk, there's as much as he was a kind of outlier as a player, he was kind of a little different. He is like straight up and down as a coach. The guy who was the biggest deep threat in the NFL had the number one running attack in all of FCS last year and lost both of those running backs who both got close to 1,000 yards. Both of them went to FBS. One went to Arizona State, one went to New Mexico State. So he's coming back this year, and he says right now he doesn't really know what. He said he didn't really find out till halfway during the season last year how much of a running back and how talented a running back duo he had. So he said, I don't know exactly. You don't expect us to rush for 400 yards like we did last year. And I think that's the one thing I really like about Deshaun Jackson. And the thing is also, I think it's only made Michael Vick a better coach because Michael Vick, the competition between he and Deshaun, who played with the Eagles before, both have very successful NFL careers. Now they come into coaching. I think it's going to make Michael Vick step up a little bit from that 1-11 he had last year at Norfolk State. Maybe a lot.
Now, when I talked to him at MEAC Media Day, I'm talking about Michael Vick. He seemed like last year he was a freshman coach.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
And you know what they say about freshmen? The best thing about them is that they become sophomores. We know he's got a great recruiting base.
Yeah.
But the rumors have always been, had he been willing to go the extra mile in preparation, which was the same question that a lot of people asked when he was quarterbacking for the Atlanta Falcons. You sense a more mature Michael Vick coming into this season?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. All he's talking about, there were rumors last year that he wasn't in Norfolk all week long. He came on Wednesday or Thursday of the week and stayed to the weekend, then flew back to Florida or somewhere else. I think that he learned a lot. 1-11 with Michael Vick is not going to sit well.
Not in Norfolk.
As a competitive number one pick in the NFL draft, you come into coaching, and then you got to be comparing to all of the rest of the guys, like you said, like we talked about, the ex-NFL people that have come in. So Deshaun Jackson's kind of set the goal or the mark, I guess you'd say, with his 8-4 record from last year and coming within a few plays of winning the MEAC championship and going to the Celebration Bowl. And he talked about that's all they did after this year, even though they lost some very significant players from that last year's team.
But it just goes to prove how when you become a viable program and you are a thing, you can replenish the guys. Yep. It's almost like if you watch hockey and you know how they change the lines, it's almost like Deshaun Jackson is doing that with this year's roster. And I find that to be one of the more fascinating stories in HBCU football this season. That's going to be really
Absolutely.
one to watch. But I don't want to get too far away from the Division II schools right now because I think the CIAA race is going to be a lot more competitive than most people do. I don't necessarily go into the season seeing one team that kind of stands out. What do you make of the parity or the potential for parity in that league?
I'm not sure, Mark. I'm not sure parity is the word. I think that somebody may have stepped up and separated themselves from everybody else, and that's Johnson C. Smith. You know, they had not won a championship last year since 1969. What's that, 55, 56 years?
Yeah.
Maurice Flowers is a Johnson C. Smith grad. He came in and said that he was going to build this program, rebuild this program. And even as our friends from HBCU Game Day, particularly Wiley Pitt has been doing the series on them called Brick by Brick. That's
Mm-hmm.
exactly what he's done. He has built this program to the point right now that not only is he my favorite for the CIAA, he's my number one team of the black college teams in black college football. I think they're really that good. He's done a great job recruiting. He actually had 1,000-yard rusher and also was able to pry away the SIAC Player of the Year from Allen, Fabian Duncan. So he has
Wow.
2,000-yard rushes in his arsenal there at Johnson C. Smith. He actually lost one of the top receivers from the CIAA, Brevin Caldwell, who transferred to go down with Michael Vick at Norfolk State. But still, he returns two receivers last year that were among the best in the CIAA. So I really think that the competitive conference I'm looking at is more of the SIAC really than the CIAA. I think Virginia Union and Johnson C. Smith and another key team is Fayetteville State. Fayetteville State has always been very tough defensively, not very productive offensively, but they lured the quarterback again from Allen University, Jameer Dismukes, who threw for 2,700 yards and 24 touchdowns a year ago at Allen. He's now at Fayetteville State. That may even put Fayetteville State above Virginia Union. As you know, the Panthers lost that 2,300-yard rusher who won the Harlan Hill Trophy last year. They lost him to graduation. So I'm not sure who's going to be the next one to step up after Jada Byers and Curtis Allen. Who's going to be the next guy that's going to carry the tote and carry the load for Virginia Union? So I'm looking at Fayetteville State and Johnson C. Smith as the class of the CIAA.
Wow. That's pretty big. Now,
Yep.
I'll ask you this, and I'm gonna play shamelessly to the people around the way in the DMV. How much of an impact do you think that Dawson Odoms can have at Bowie State in his first year? And let me offer the caveat: I'm not quite sure he's getting the support from the high school coaches in the area, which
Mm,
led Bowie to get to the point where they could play for a national championship. And there are a lot of people that have said, back off and give him a chance. And if you and I have covered the SWAC, we know what that guy can do. But
absolutely.
can he bring that mindset to Maryland and be successful?
Well, that's one of the advantages that Damon Wilson had when he was at Bowie State. He's from the DMV. He knows the DMV. He knows those coaches. And over a period of time, and he reminded even on the MEAC football teleconference this week, he reminded us that he wasn't great his first 3 or 4 years at Bowie State. It took him time to build up. And I think it's going to be the same with Dawson Odoms. We know that he can X and O with the best of them. He can motivate with the best of them. I think it's going to take him a couple of years because Bowie State, since Damon Wilson left, they've not been the same Bowie State. They were the
No, they
most
haven't.
dominant. They were the most dominant CIAA program. Right now, they're middle of the pack, if not below, halfway in that conference. So I think it's going to take a while. I think, like you said, he's going to have to get to know those coaches in that area, get some
Mm-hmm.
confidence that he's going to give them an opportunity, these guys that play in the DMV area, an opportunity to play and to play well and to win. So I think it'll have some effect, but I don't know if it's going to be immediate.
Let me ask you about that portal transfer thing as it relates to Division II HBCU schools right now. Are
Mhm.
they being rated by other one FCS programs? Is it
Oh,
terrorizing their programs as well?
absolutely, Mark. Absolutely. It's across the board. Listen, if you are all CIAA, all SIAC, all MEAC, and all SWAC, the door is open for you to leave, and the money is waiting for you. If you put up any kind of numbers, any kind of stats, I mean, the leading rushers and receivers from the SWAC, the leading rushers and receivers from the MEAC. I think we talked about this on the previous show. We have, and it's interesting. The MEAC had in their all-conference first team preseason, had the quarterback that hadn't played at all. You know,
Right.
he's been sitting the bench for North Carolina Central. His name is Josh Jones. He's been to sit the bench for 3 years behind Davis Richard first, and then behind Walker Harris for the last couple of years. So, but he's the first team all conference quarterback from the MEAC. And I asked Trey Oliver, the head coach of North Carolina Central, had he ever seen that? He said no, and it's because they're getting rated. And certainly the same thing happens on the Division II level. You know, Quinn Gray, for example, took as many of the players he could take out of Albany State down to Florida A&M. Chennis Berry did the exact same thing when he left Benedict and went to South Carolina State. So they're being rated not only by the FCS and sometimes moving up as far as the FBS as well. So yeah, that's a serious question. But the funny part of it is, SWAC retained all their great quarterbacks. They have everybody in the SWAC almost has an all-conference caliber quarterback, but nobody in the MEAC. And that's something I haven't figured out yet, but it is a fact.
Well, you know something, when you got a guy like Ted White that comes into Howard, I think that you could be looking at somebody that is the guy that can mold a quarterback into being something other than just a contributing player. You know what I mean? A field general and things like that. And to me, I think he's another fascinating story. It has the potential to be all warm and fuzzy. I mean, let's be real for a second. This is a dude coming back to his alma mater. He's coached in the NFL, the UFL. He's got a whole boatload of experience. And if I'm not mistaken, wasn't he player of the year, senior year in the MEAC?
Of course, yeah, and the career passing leader for many years. He passed for over 9,000 yards in his career, and he was the career passing leader. And you know, all of that expertise and that playing experience has certainly contributed to all of the places he's been. Very sharp, very articulate. I think again, Howard had a great run under Larry Scott. You know, they fell off the last couple of years. I think that's half the reason why Larry Scott left. But Ted White knows the environment. He knows the MEAC. He knows what he's dealing with, and he has the expertise and experience since he moved into the coaching ranks, I think, to really make a difference at Howard. So that's going to be a very, very interesting one to watch.
And he does have a pretty decent athletic director who has been able to make some moves to put some shine on that program that I think we all knew they were worthy of at some point. But now it's for real, and to watch them have a chance to kick off on opening Saturday. What do we call this? Week 0. I mean,
yeah. And I talked about amazing. That this week. I asked what happened in week 0. Week 0 was supposed to be one game, a couple of games on the FBS level, and then the schedule would open up. But this week we got 28 games, Mark. We got 28 games on week 0, and the SWAC MEAC challenge down here in Atlanta between Howard and Alabama A&M. I'm actually trying to do a doubleheader. I'm trying to go to Birmingham to see Southern and Alabama State, and then I'm trying to leave Birmingham and fly back to Greensboro to see Howard and Alabama A&M down at Georgia State Stadium, Center Park Stadium. So trying to
you had a Freudian slip there, my friend. You're trying to go back to Atlanta, not Greensboro.
Oh, thank you.
Because Morgan will be traveling to Greensboro this week.
They will be playing the Aggies in Greensboro. That's right.
And you know something, from a straight up rivalry standpoint, and alumni position aside, that is a great game for Black college football this weekend. It reeks in tradition. And I remember when we were down at the Black Sports Writers Hall of Fame, and I was with Bill Roden, and how Roden had such an animus towards the ANC campus because they ended the Bears' like 5-year win streak or something, and he couldn't wait to get off the campus. Wow. And what that means is the rivalry means something. So I'm that dude in the MEAC that's representing for Motel 6 when it comes to A&T, I'm leaving the light on for you.
I got you. I got
We'll
you.
take you back now.
Well, no, you'll take them back, and a lot of Aggies would like to go back as well, man. There's no question. But that historic matchup between A&T and Morgan State has always been a good one. Morgan just announced, Damon Wilson announced his quarterback, the guy who spent 3 years at Maryland and then transferred last year to excuse me, to Eastern Michigan. Um, that's what your Bears from Morgan have been lacking is really great quarterback
You're
play.
right.
So if they get that, then I think they'll be a factor as well in the MEAC race.
Because say what you want about Damon Wilson, his teams play D.
Defense, that's
And
right.
last year there were several games where 2 or 3 quarterback misses, and then you had the problems with the field goal kicker.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
was that one game when you missed 3 field goals was really the difference between them potentially getting to but I'm really ready for this season. This to me, I don't know. Do you have a consensus number one of everybody? Because to me, it just seems like it's kind of, you've got your elite status, your South Carolina State, your Prairie
right,
Views,
right.
and teams like that. But that middle of the road is kind of thick this year.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I said the most competitive conference I think this year is going to be the SIAC. They actually picked Edward Waters. Come
Wow.
on, man. It was like 15 years ago, Mark, when
Wow.
we were doing, you remember Edward
Yes.
Waters versus Shaw in the Jacksonville Jaguar Stadium,
The Willie Gary
The Willie
Classic.
Gary
Yes.
Classic,
Yes.
Edward Waters has come a long way. And the big move is when they made Brian Jenkins their head coach, the guy who shook up the MEAC in those 6 or 7 years he was down at Bethune-Cookman. He's now back in the saddle as the head coach of Edward Waters, and he comes in the season with the 2 preseason offensive and defensive players of the year, running back Jantarius Thomas as well as linebacker Trevon Hunt. They beat Virginia Union to open the season last year. Even though they finished. I think they lost 4 of their last 5 games. They only finished 5-5 overall, 4-4 in the conference. But they are picked this year by the coaches to be the number 1 team in the SIAC, and that means Albany State lost Quinn Gray. He went to Florida A&M. Benedict, who Quinn Gray and Albany State beat 3 times last year, once in the regular season, once in the CIAA championship, SIAC championship, and once in the Division II playoffs. He's gone. David Bowser is there at Albany State. Kentucky State last year finished 9-3, went to the playoffs. They're a team to be reckoned with. Tuskegee, who was a perennial champion. I don't know how much longer they're going to be putting up with Aaron James down there. He hadn't won any championships in the last 4 years. So there's a lot of competition, I think, in the SIAC. I think there are going to be a lot of good teams. And that's not even leaving out, Mark, the local guys. Clark Atlanta has a new coach. Terry Sims, who used to be at Bethune-Cookman. Morehouse has a new coach, Brad Sherrod, and both of them have the 2 best quarterbacks, at least what the coaches say in the preseason, Xavier Jackson at Clark Atlanta and Miles Scott at Morehouse. So I think the SIAC is going to be very, very, I got to pick the right time to move to Atlanta.
Yeah,
Man.
you did. So what you're saying now, as one who covered the Atlanta University Center, okay?
Yeah.
And I remember the days of trying to do football games where Albany State would win. Albany and Savannah was in the conference.
Yeah.
Those 2 teams singularly would win more games than all 3 when Morris Brown had a football team in the AUC. So you're saying that flipped this script.
Right. Well, what the deal is, they picked Clark Atlanta 10th out of 13 teams, and they clicked Morehouse 12th. But the funny part is, Morehouse had more players on the all SIAC preseason team than anybody else. I've been to a practice over there. I've watched Brad Sherrod. He's an NAIA guy who won a couple of NAIA championships before taking the reins at Morehouse. I know Terry Sims well from his time at Bethune-Cookman. He had a similar kind of run, not quite as successful as Brian Jenkins, but him coming to Clark Atlanta is saying a lot. And like I said, they have some stuff to work with when they have 2 of the best quarterbacks in the SIAC.
That's my guy, Luke Williams, from the Black College Sports page, boys and girls. Hey, you need to follow it. We will be posting it on the HBCU Sports Nation Facebook page. So you have no reason not to be on your game. And if you
Yeah.
do, it's your fault, and I'm definitely going to hold you accountable for it. Thanks a lot, Lou. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, my friend.
Looking forward to the kickoff, Mark. Should be interesting.
We'll recap week 1 and get you set up for week 2, because this is how we do it around here. It's HBCU Sports Talk on Sports Rap Network. Remember, download the mobile app, because we all we got.